We've heard the story, and perhaps you've heard me tell it, about the bird of freedom, the bird of liberation. This comes down from the Eastern traditions. Has two wings, self-effort and grace. There's another teaching about the bird of liberation, the bird of freedom, our own real freedom. Both personal freedom experienced in our day-to-day and larger, wider forms of freedom, transpersonal forms of freedom. We could call those spiritual forms of freedom, waking up, growing up. And that is that the bird of freedom is made of two wings, and they are emptiness and compassion. Emptiness and compassion. A bird can't fly with just one wing. So let's unpack this a little bit. This teaching comes down from Tantric Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, Vajrayana. Emptiness and compassion. So what do we mean? To be filled with attunement with emptiness and compassion, to be filled with attunement with emptiness and compassion. So let's make some space first to consider things beyond the ordinary mind. Because if we're just considering with the ordinary mind, we're basically rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You know, moving things around, making it pretty while the ship is sinking. So we want to go beyond that way of doing things, that way of listening, that way of seeing. When I bring what I'm biased by, I need to clear that out so I can hear newly, so I can be in discovery. That's what dialogue actually means, to be in discovery. To discover together, actually, to discover together. So let's discover together by first using the breath. So take some deep breaths in. Let go on the exhale and have the feeling that you're like emptying out the energy of thinking, any noise in your nervous system, gently, without being pushy, into the earth below you. No matter how high up you are, maybe you're in a high rise, just and you might even want to sigh it out with an audible sound, especially if it's been a really jam-packed day. Couple more. Just emptying out, having the feeling that emptying out is easy and fun. Easy and fun. It's already done, it's easy and fun. What would that feel like as you're breathing and letting go, to know that it's easy and fun, easily done? Just noticing the hummingbirds playing outside the window as we deepen our breathing and our letting go together. And butterfly just flew by, a big white butterfly. Flying, flying, two wings, emptiness and compassion. So emptiness. Emptiness is often misunderstood when it's tried to be understood through the ordinary mind. Emptiness does not mean despondency or depression or not caring or sitting out on the game of life. These are not emptiness. True emptiness from the spiritual point of view means recognizing, seeing through temporary reality, the temporary forms. What do I mean? My body is a temporary form. It'll last however many years it lasts. It's not permanent. My voice is temporary. The flowers, the birds are temporary. The sky, as we see it, is always changing, so it's temporary. The soil below us changes. It's temporary. So everything that is temporary, when we can see through the temporariness, really see through it, not just an intellectual idea, but sense through, oh, these forms are all empty of permanence. They exist as long as they exist. They matter while they exist. They have suchness. Like at a certain point each day, several times a day, I know it's time to feed this body nourishing food. Even though the body's temporary, it doesn't mean it's not real. It's temporary, and it has a certain form of emptiness that I'm very aware of. I can sense the emptiness of my body. I can sense the emptiness of my thoughts. They don't have permanence. Now, if this is somewhat new to you, begin where you are. Lengthen your exhales. The longer and the slower you make your exhales, not only does this help you to enter contemplation and meditation, but it slows the thinking stream down. And as we get practice slowing the thinking stream down intentionally and regularly, we can start to notice there's gaps between the thoughts. And not only do we notice that there are gaps, vast empty gaps between the thoughts, but also behind ordinary mind in all directions is vast, luminous emptiness, pure potential. So the emptiness we're talking about is not void as such. It's not nothing as such. It's the creative something before it becomes a form. It's the creative something, the infinitely creative potential that can become anything without losing any of its original power. Take a deep breath. Let go on the exhale. So if you're newer to practice, just keep listening behind my words. Just make it up that it's easy to listen behind and underneath my words and sense the energy as you lengthen your exhales, and just have the feeling of practicing exhaling the energy of thinking itself and any tension you find through your body. That's a beginning practice. And we all begin at the beginning every time we begin practice. How quickly that moves is determined by how deep our practice has gone. But we all begin at the beginning. So we're all beginners every time we practice. Got that? So if that's a reminder to you that's fresh right now, find a way to keep it alive. Write it on a sticky note, put it in your mirror, put it in your car. Cultivate beginner's mind. This humility lends itself to being back in discovery and learning and growing rather than already knowing and stagnating and getting stuck. So, to carry on a little deeper about discovering or recognizing emptiness. Some of you are ready to notice the constructed nature of most of the things that we could worry about. They're constructs, they're made up. They exist to the degree that they exist, but they're made up. Like money is a construct, it's made up. There was a time before there was visible money. Maybe people traded cows or traded beads or traded services. But there was a time before printed money, before coins. Money is a construct, it's made up. Government is a construct, and there are many different forms of this construct all over the world and throughout time. And there was a time long before there were governments. So government is a constructed idea. Therefore, it is empty. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, but it is empty of permanence. And as practitioners who are serious about touching the source of power within, we want not what is just empty, but what is truly creative potential. So if we're attached to a temporary construct and worrying about it, we're creating noise and disturbance in the nervous system, and we're separating ourselves from the source of true power, true love. So seeing through these constructs is a way of letting the mind come back into rest in the luminous emptiness behind the mind, and then being led by this infinitely intelligent force about the best way forward for anything. And sometimes the best way forward is rest. Another deep breath, please. Let go slowly on the exhale. So noticing the constructed nature of things. And there are so many things I haven't mentioned. In Taoist practice, they call it the 10,000 things. The 10,000 things, that's shorthand for all temporary forms. Now, this could really easily, this talk, lend itself to a many week or many month training, actually years of training, if we really extrapolate it out and get into the details. And you can receive everything really right now. The understanding is not about grasping at concepts with your intellectual mind. Remember, those are just more constructs. It's sensing. So just be playful like you were little. Can you sense the emptiness of the video screen? It's made up of particles, reduced down to the particles. You know, you go from the screen to pieces of the screen to molecules, down to atoms, down to particles, down to strings, and so on and so forth, down to that which cannot be reduced, the creative power, appearing as your video screen, appearing as my voice. So just keep playing with this, just be playful. So when you relate to, say, the stock market, and let's just say it's having a really rough period and you're watching some of the numbers of your investments go down, and you notice your state getting really upset, can you begin to see through the constructed nature of the system in such a way as to reconnect to the source, the actual source of abundance? A stock market is not the source of abundance. Being able to connect and live from the felt alignment with the source of abundance will attract you and I to the circumstances and conditions that will support us abundantly. Whether that's visible money, whether that's trading goods and services, whether that's being gifted something, infinite numerable ways to connect with the source of abundance and its manifestations, when we're not tied to it having to come from one particular place or several particular places, when we open to trusting that our contact, alignment, and flow with the source of abundance consistently and ever more deeply will draw to us the resources and the intuitions to connect with visible forms of abundance. And that goes for just about everything. Now, when we go deeper, we want to see that the mind itself is inherently empty. It doesn't mean anything. It has no permanence. Ordinary mind is temporary. It is empty. So as we begin to see emptiness and experience emptiness in a way beyond what I said, depression, voidness, something's missing, beyond any of these things, we're going into sensing the luminous emptiness, the creative power of life itself. So which one feels better to align your attention with? The luminous emptiness source of creation itself, or worrying about money, worrying about government, worrying about your children, worrying about the sea levels? And I'm not saying we don't take care of our children or our government or money or sea levels. We'll take better care of these things when we're not grasping at constructs and concepts and turning ourselves into tension forms. We'll make better choices. We'll be able to hear the infinite intelligence, sense the infinite intelligence guiding us in all of our ways, in ways that are harmonious for everyone and everything involved. That is called sustainability. And a way around not having to create new karma, new unnecessary karma. More about that at a later date. So, we talked about two wings, emptiness and compassion. So let's talk a little bit about compassion. Well, in my experience, compassion, real compassion, only gets touched when we're coming from emptiness, when we're able to empty out to some great degree. Otherwise, it's personal attachment, it's sentimentality, it's infatuation, it's grasping, clinging, and chasing in the name of compassion. Generally, some form of over-empathizing. We all have mirror neurons from head to toe in our body. They can sense what other beings are feeling or thinking, physically and emotionally. And when we over-empathize with them or our own story, we end up in empathic distress and we suffer. The pain centers in the brain turn on. Compassion turns on the pleasure centers. Fascinating. Compassion turns on the pleasure centers. Stimulates the flow of oxytocin, the bonding chemical. Then that stimulates serotonin, which is a mood lift, a mood balancer. And dopamine. Actually, dopamine comes before serotonin. Dopamine is the reward chemical, and then serotonin, and so on and so forth. So compassion is a really, really wonderful thing for us to study and contemplate and meditate upon, huh? I think so. It feels good. And when I'm feeling truly good, sustainably good, I'm not talking about caffeinated, I'm talking about sustainably good, other people through empathy pick up on that through their mirror neurons. So this is a way I can make a difference in society without having to say a word. And so can you. Infinitely, 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 infinitely. This is how we be the change we wish to see in the world. But we have to empty out to touch compassion. That means we have to see what our attachment is in a situation and be willing to see through it to the emptiness, let it go, let go of our attachment to the outcome having to be a particular way in order to access compassion. It's only our biases that have us not access compassion, our personal conditioned biases. We were conditioned to believe certain things and not other things. If we were born in a different time and place and religion, we might have completely different beliefs and biases. We would, not even might, we would. So we want to see the emptiness of our biases, see the emptiness of our attachments, and rest in the stillness and hold the feeling, hold the intention for compassion, which is universal. It doesn't belong to any one person, just like love. Hold the intention for universal compassion to begin to foreground into our experience. And from here, we begin to naturally have thoughts like, wow, that person has a past, and I don't know anything about it, but I bet you they're imprinted by some trauma, and that's what has them act in those ways. I'm still going to have boundaries with them, but I don't need to hold hatred or bitterness in my heart towards them, because I have compassion, because there but by the grace of God go I. If I lived in their exact same circumstances, I might be saying and doing the exact same things. Compassion can show this to us. So for us to feel free in any given moment, it's to the degree that we're able to access emptiness and compassion together. Emptiness and compassion together. And so trust the path, trust the practices. This is what we're cultivating in the different meditations, the breathwork processes, the contemplations, the trainings, this is the work of waking up more deeply and growing up more fully. So I'll leave it here for now. And you might want to watch it a few times and just contemplate, take notes. And then if you have questions or objections, take them first into contemplation. Ask Source, by whatever name you call it or don't call it. Ask Source, please show me a deeper insight about this question or objection I have. I'm willing to see. And then you do the work of using your breath to empty out tension, exhale the energy of thinking, and so on. Practice. And then once you've practiced and contemplated, if you have questions, you can put them in the comments below and I'll do my best with them. Even better, come to one of the workshops. At this recording, we are at the very beginning of the Alchemy of Compassion course. It's a multi-week course that we're filming it now live on Saturdays, and it will be available evergreen for life. So you can still jump in. All the material that's been done so far, all the videos are up so far for you to catch up, and you can jump in if you'd like. In fact, at this recording, I'll pass you a little secret. The discount is still available. There's still $50 off, the early bird discount. We left it open for a little longer. So anyhows, lastly, as we like to do, as we know to do, as it's empowering to do, may the fruit of this contemplation, may the fruits of our practices truly uplift all beings as well as the earth. May we be happy, may we be well, and may we feel loved. And so it is. Namaste. We'll see you soon.